Hi, welcome to our Palin PCI online webinar. My name's Rosie Markland. I'm one of the therapists at the Michael Palin Centre, and I'm going to be joined in this presentation by two of my colleagues, Sophie Card and Sarah Delpesh. Now, we've been asked by many therapists recently whether it's possible to do Palin PCI online, and we would say yes, it's definitely possible to do online. We've been using online therapy for many years now for our clients that can't make it into clinic, and so we know that it's possible to do and also that it's effective. So we see similar results for children doing online therapy as we do for those doing face-to-face therapy. We also know that doing online therapy comes with its own challenges and its own considerations. So we've put together some practical tips, some things that we've come across that have been helpful, and some advice for therapists. So what's included in this video and what isn't? If we start with what isn't included, this isn't going to be Palin PCI training. So it's not going to go through the program and teach you how to run Palin PCI. It is specific to online therapy. The other thing that we're not going to cover are the basic foundations of doing online therapy. So the general things that you need to consider when doing any therapy online. There are guidelines around this. The RCSLT has published some guidelines, and I know that lots of therapists have made videos too outlining things that they're doing for their online therapy. This is going to be very tailored towards Palin PCI. So what is covered is how to do the parent-child interaction videos. That's often the main thing that we get asked, is it still possible to do that? So we'll show you some practical ways, things that we use in our therapy that seem to be working for us. We're going to go through family strategies generally and also have a more specific look at the turn-taking session and the praise session. And then we've got some general troubleshooting around things that are going on at the moment, as well as some questions that we've been asked from parents that we think might be quite common ones you might get asked too, and just things that we've been considering around that. So my colleague Sophie Card is going to take us through the first section.
Okay, so the first thing that we need to think about before therapy is how all the technology fits in. So it's obviously really important to discuss what video call service or platform you want to use with the family prior to that first session. So we would always make contact with parents before the first therapy session, either by phone or email. And at MPC, we like to use Skype or Zoom as two different options for Palin PCI online. It's obviously important to be flexible with parents, but do try and stay within your own knowledge, because you don't want to spend too much time working out how to use the technology rather than the therapy itself. And also make sure you're picking a service that you're allowed to use within your trust. So during this call, we'd swap our contact details with parents to make sure that we can make contact on the day that the first therapy session starts. So this would include giving parents your Skype details if that's the platform you're using, or with Zoom, as the therapist, we would arrange the meeting and then send this on to parents, including the meeting ID and the password. As with clinic sessions, parents can still turn up to these appointments, either by initiating the call if it's on Skype or joining the meeting on Zoom. But obviously this depends on what platform service you're using. Okay, so what's different about doing it online? So obviously the session content remains the same as with face-to-face sessions. There's just a few details that are different. So we find it helpful to send handouts ahead of time so that parents can have these available for any discussions that are due to take place in the session. We would also take some time, as we do in clinic, to outline expectations for therapy. And this would much be the same as it is face-to-face. For example, we would still expect parents to be filling out their special time task sheets, as well as the praise logs, and bring these to the sessions with them. They can obviously send these to you via email so that you've got access to those, and make sure that you're storing those in a secure location, as obviously it forms as part of the child's record. Another factor which is different to being online is how you will record and watch the videos back. So obviously in clinic this is done simply just within the session. However, working online means that this has to change, and we will discuss the potential options for that over the next few slides. And the last bit, which feels a little bit different for online therapy, particularly right now, is that for special times, some parents may overstretch themselves and think that they can fit in 5 special times each, and it might just be necessary to discuss this with them to make sure that they're setting realistic expectations for themselves and having that open conversation. Because obviously if they're working from home and doing online schooling as well, it might just be too difficult to fit all 5 in. Okay, so if we have a bit of a think now about the different options that we've got for recording the videos. So the first option is for parents to record the special time prior to the session and send this to you via a video sharing system. So we use Dropbox as our trust allows that. So obviously just check what your trust permits you to use. So what are the benefits for this? So this obviously means that you have access to the video prior to the session to watch it through if needed. This way you can ensure that the video is how you want it to be. For example, that both the child and parent are visible within the video and that the sound is of good quality. Also, as I said before, just make sure that any videos are stored securely, as this does form as part of the child's record. So then once you've got the video and you're in the session, you can then either watch the video back separately or watch it back together by sharing your screen. So if you were to watch the video back separately, that would work fine, as you now both have access to the video. Obviously the parent took the video and they've sent it to you, so you could watch it back that way. Alternatively, you can share your screen with parents and watch it together. This just means that you would have control over what segment to show them and where to pause it, and make sure that you're in control of what you want them to see. And we'll talk about how to do that on a few platforms in a second. Okay, so the second option is that you would record the video live in the session and then watch it back together. So this could be used if your trust don't allow Dropbox or another sharing system, or parents just can't access that. So this way you get to watch the video interaction twice, the first time when it's being recorded and then again when you watch it back together. So this facility is obviously available through Skype and Zoom, and then once the video has been recorded, you can then either watch it back on your own devices or share your screen and watch it together. Now, whether you're able to watch them separately or watch it together will depend on what platform that you've chosen to use, so we'll have a think about that now. Okay, so if we just have a bit of a think about the different platforms and think about Skype first. So Skype allows you to record videos in the session by clicking a record button, which is at the bottom of the screen. So what you'll see first is 3 dots, and when you click them, this bar comes up to then hit start recording. You will stop recording in the same way, but do note that that might be in a different place depending on your device. So these screenshots are taken from a laptop. So if you're on an iPad or a tablet, you might have to have a bit of a play around to find where these buttons are. Okay, so the next thing is once you've stopped the video, they immediately become available in the chat section, which you can access during a call by clicking on the little speech bubble button in the corner of the screen. This way you can both watch the video back separately, because parents will have access to the video in their chat section and you've also got it in yours. It's important to note here that videos are stored in that chat section for 30 days, so both you and the parents can access it from there for 30 days. You can save the video by right-clicking and clicking save, and also make sure that it's saved in a secure location as it is part of the child's record. Or alternatively, if you want to remove the video, both you and the parents will need to do that from your own chats. And again, you just do that by right-clicking and clicking remove. Once you've done that, you can watch the video back by sharing your screen by selecting the 2 little square buttons, which again are in the bottom right-hand corner. And when you do click that button, ensure that you select to share your computer audio so that parents can actually hear the video when they watch it back with you. Parents will then likely be prompted to accept the screen share on their end, so just make sure they're aware of that. Okay, so the next option with Zoom, so things are a bit different with Zoom. Zoom also does allow you to record by clicking on the record button, which comes up in the bottom bar of the screen. Again, this is depending on what device you're using. So the difference with Zoom is that once you've made the recording, so you've hit record and then you click stop, which comes in the same place as where the record button is, you can't actually access the video yet until you leave the call. So what you would need to do is leave the call, leave the parents there, and then when you come out, the video immediately starts to convert into an MP4 format, which you then get prompted to save once it's finished. Again, make sure that you save it in a secure location. And this video convert typically takes a few minutes, but obviously that does depend on your internet speed. The only option then to watch the video back with parents is to share your screen with them by clicking on the green button at the bottom. Obviously, parents don't have access to watch the video themselves, so you do have to do this by sharing your screen in that way.
So one of the questions we've been asked about is how you can deliver the family strategies online with families. And we've been giving this a bit of a go over the past few weeks, and we've been having quite good success with it. So I thought we'd share some of our tips with you. So overall, deliver all the aspects of the family strategies as you would as if you were in clinic. If you've identified a strategy as important for a child at their assessment, include it in the online therapy too. It's quite helpful to be a little bit extra prepared for your sessions. It's surprising how having another thing to deal with, such as using the online systems, can throw you a bit in therapy. So I find it quite helpful just to have a little note with even just bullet points of what you need to cover in the session so that you don't miss out one of the important elements. Spending a little bit of time getting organised beforehand, really worth the investment. It can make things run much smoother. Sending a pre-reading to the family before, making sure they've got everything to hand for a session, and you too, just even things like pen and paper close by, just makes it all go a bit better. Agreeing who's going to take the notes from the session, from brainstorms or rules that you might generate for praise or turn-taking sessions, for example. An older child might quite like to do this. They might quite like to, draw some pictures or write the notes around what you're talking about. Or the parents might prefer to do this, or you might take that role, but just make sure you agree who's going to share it at the end, sending it all through by email or something. And it might be different family by family, so it might be something you decide as you go along. Make sure the child's there for the sessions. It's quite easy for the child to go off and be playing in another room while you're having a bit of a catch up with parents or having a discussion, let's say around praise or something. But it's really important for the child to hear us talking about stammering and all these components of therapy, as well as the parents. So think of all these opportunities as desensitisation opportunities. If something's not quite working, like maybe the family are finding it hard to fit in the agreed special times, or the session connectivity isn't so good, or the sound level isn't quite good enough for you to hear what they're saying, take a bit of time to problem solve it with the family, asking what's getting in the way, and figuring out a way forward and agreeing a plan. And it might be for some families that online therapy just isn't a good fit, and that's okay. At the end of the sessions, following up with any agreed actions and any logs that they might want to complete, and maybe even some pre-reading for your next session too. We've also been asked about the praise logs and how you can get parents to complete praise logs remotely. The praise log that comes with our manual is a PDF, and some people can edit PDFs on their versions, but other families can't. So it's helpful to think what we need from the families, and there's some ways around it. Our families have come up with some good ideas, so we're sharing those with you. What we need to make sure we've got is some real examples of what praise the parents have given to their child and how their child's responded. So they could amend the PDF if they've got that as an option and send that back to you. They might just jot down what they've said and how the child responded on a bit of paper and send a photo of that to you before your next session. Some families keep their phones with them quite a lot, so making a bit of a note in their notes section or having a draft email ready to add into as the praise happens, and then emailing that to you before your session. Or maybe they could even make their own praise log and fill that in and send it to you before they see you next. I found being flexible really helps, and seeing what works best for the family. If it fits for them, they're more likely to fill it in and get it back to you. We've been asked about the family turn-taking session and how you can deliver this one online. A few of us in the team were a bit unsure of this to begin with, but we've given it a go, and I promise you it does work. But just like any other session, it takes a little bit of thinking through first. So we thought maybe we could just share what we found helpful, so you can try it out too. But you may have found some other ways, so yeah, let us know if you've got any tips for us too. Like the other sessions, having everything ready is key beforehand. And yeah, making sure you and the family have got something that you can use as a microphone if you're joining in too. It doesn't have to be an actual microphone, a pen, a hairbrush, something like that works well too. Children tend to be pretty creative with these things. Follow the face-to-face session format, the same as you would if you were seeing the family in clinic. It can all be covered online. It's quite easy to skip over a part of the session, but they're all there for a reason. So yeah, keep them all in there. It might take a bit longer. Things get in the way with online sessions sometimes. And yeah, if you need to do it over a couple of sessions, just be all right with that. You can either join the microphone game, so virtually get them to move you into their circle and play a role that way. You just need to give them a nudge when you want to take your turn and pass the microphone your way or something like that. Or you might let the family play the game and you take more of an observing role. Either way, making sure you debrief from the activity in the usual way, ensuring you've come up with some of the principles, the rules for the game, and each family member's got a clear target, so they know what they're working on when they play this again at home. And one of the other key bits is the consolidation period. And so you'll have a few things that you're going to think about naturally as you would face-to-face. So agreeing how the family will keep in touch with you, making sure you've got that in place, probably by email or maybe by phone, and agreeing your review date. So you know you've got something in the diary to check in with them again. And it's a helpful time to prepare and talk about any changes that might happen. There's lots of changes or uncertainty going on at the moment for lots of families during this period. And so maybe children might be returning to school, or parents might be returning to work, or going back to nursery, things like that. And we want to be preparing parents that there might be some changes to children's stammering. We know that for some children, changes can play a part in their stammering. So it's probably helpful just to prepare them for that and, make sure that they know you're available to talk through any concerns that they've got along the way. And, it might be helpful to revisit some of those rationales or elements of the therapy with the family through the consolidation period if needed. It might be that your clinic reopens during the consolidation period, and it could be helpful at this point to talk to the family that if this does happen, do they want to continue with the sessions online, if that's an option in your trust, or whether they prefer that to be face-to-face if and when that's an option for them again. Flexibility is helpful again, but it might be that your trust determines that for you.
Okay, so this is our troubleshooting section, which is just a few things that we've come across as a team since we've all been working from home and parents and children are now at home too, and a few of the different things that we've been coming across. One thing to say about this section is that there isn't just one solution to these problems, and that actually what works for one therapist is probably going to be different to what works for another, and same family to family. There's going to be different solutions. These are just some of the things we've been talking about and some of the things that you might want to give a try. So the first one, what to do when there are other children in the house. And this one's becoming very common now that children aren't in school. So the first thing we'd say is to try and involve them in the session if you can. Things that we've tried are when you're setting up special time, getting the siblings to tell you or make a list of things that they're going to do in their special time too. Any conversations that you're having around them, they can let you know how their special time's going, things that they've been pleased to notice this week, and all the little conversations like that. As Sarah was talking about the family strategies earlier, it might be possible to involve children in them. The turn-taking one, they'll obviously be involved in already. Things like praise, they might want to do the note-taking, or nice idea of drawing some pictures around it, or things like that. Now obviously this is dependent on age, and maybe with younger children that might be a little bit more tricky. So for families where one parent does need to be with the child and to be entertaining the children, you might almost want to split the session in a way. So you have one parent with you having the conversation, either talking through their video or talking through the family strategy, and then the other parent is almost freed up to entertain the children. Now we'd advise that they sit nearby so that maybe they're still within earshot of the conversation, and that's good for the children because they're getting that desensitization, and we're getting openness throughout the whole family then, not just with the child who stammers. Also for the parent, they can kind of keep one ear on the conversation that you're having with the other parent. It's important for them to swap over when you've finished talking with one parent so that both parents are getting a similar amount of time. Now the thing that you miss in doing it that way is that parents don't have that opportunity to then talk together and bounce ideas off each other and come up with solutions to things or reflect on things together. So just highlighting this to them as something that actually is an important part of therapy, and think about how they're going to do that. So it might be that they have 10 minutes in the evening when they're going to chat together, or 10 minutes at the end of the session when they're going to reflect on what they're taking away from the session. Now for single parent families, obviously that's not going to be possible, so having conversations with that parent and problem solving with them is going to help you come up with the most workable solution for them. It might be worth having a real open conversation about whether this is the right time for therapy, and just within that conversation reassuring parents that it is okay to put therapy off for a little bit and try and wait until things are maybe a little bit more normal. This can be quite worrying for some parents, so you might want to reassure them that actually timing therapy right and doing therapy at the right time is better than trying it out at a time when it's not going to work. That just makes it a real viable option for them to choose. Now, if you are wanting to give it a go and parents are up for giving it a try, then it might be worth just having some conversations with them before you start about what might happen or what will happen if you get interrupted. So if parents need to go and deal with the children, what are you going to do at that time? Maybe if it seems like something small that can be dealt with in 5 minutes, you'll wait for a bit. If it's something bigger and it's going to take longer, then you'll reschedule the session, how many times you're going to be able to do that, and just setting those expectations, I guess, before you start therapy so that you're both on the same page and there's going to be no surprises. That's going to help hopefully ease some anxiety that parents might have around doing therapy online. So the next thing that we've come across is what to do when you run out of time in the session, and we're just finding that these sessions online seem to be taking a little bit longer than sessions do face-to-face. And as we said earlier, it's important not to skip anything. So if there was something that you wanted to involve in the session, then still involve it. Also trying not to rush through things if possible, as we want the whole programme to be delivered as it should be, as it would be face-to-face too. Things that do help with time in the session are sending things in advance to parents, so sending reading in advance, and that way they can be having conversations and thinking through things that you're going to chat through in the session even before the session has started. Being organised is another one that's really useful too, and I know that's easier said than done, but having everything you need for this session and knowing what you're going to cover in that session does help it run a bit smoother and help it run a little bit quicker. So the next one is what to do when one parent is social distancing. And when we were thinking about this one, we thought about what we do in clinic, and actually sometimes we do have parents where one parent is in the clinic room with us and another parent is maybe at work or at home and is Skyping in. So that felt similar to if parents have two devices, you could have one parent in one room, one parent in another room, and do a group call. So do a group Skype call or a group Zoom call. And there's no reason why you can't still be having those conversations, even with parents in different rooms. That did lead us to think about special time, and would the parent be able to do special time if they're social distancing? And we thought, well, they could give it a try over Skype and see how it goes. I don't think it's anything that the therapists have tried so far, but it's worth giving it a try if parents still really want to do therapy and it feels like a good time for them. Then just give it a go and see how it works. Now, our last thing is what to do if parents aren't able to fit in special time. So for some of our families, we've said this is a really good time for them to do online therapy as they're at home and their work's more flexible. But for other parents, special time is going to be really difficult at the moment with everything that's going on, maybe having to homeschool, having to work from home, but also just the emotional burden of things that are happening at the moment might mean that parents aren't able to fit in special time. So as we would do in a face-to-face session, we would problem solve it to begin with to find out what's getting in the way, and then we can think about what might be helpful for that. One thing to consider, as we said earlier, is whether this is the right time for therapy. But otherwise, we'd be considering, the similar things that we would do face-to-face, so setting reminders, just seeing what parents come up with and what will be helpful for them. So these are a few of the questions that we've received from parents, and we thought that these were quite common questions and ones that you're likely to be asked too, so it might be helpful just to hear the conversations that we've been having around them. So the first one is, I'm spending 24/7 with my child. Do I still need to do special time? And we would say, yes, still keep your special time in place. A nice way of exploring that with parents is to think about the time that they're spending together with their child as quality time. So we'd want to highlight that it's great that they're spending all this quality time together and the benefits that that might have, but also differentiating this from our 5-minute special time, and trying to help parents to come up with what they think the differences are between quality time and special time will be really useful for them. So maybe looking back at their previous reflections of special times that they've done already, and what they found useful about them and how they created that environment. It might help to look through the special time instruction sheet again and highlight some of the things on there, such as it being one-to-one, there being no distractions. Also thinking about that in this 5 minutes, parents are really concentrating on their target and they're finding some time afterwards to reflect on how that went. And actually keeping that target up for 24/7 is going to be really difficult, and so that 5 minutes is enough. Another question that we're being asked about is, what should we do about bedtimes? And parents are saying, routines are being a bit more lax at the moment. Should they keep bedtimes in place? So we'd want to explore the rationale as to why we talk about bedtimes in the first place, so that that's linked to sleep, which is linked to tiredness, and that we know that tiredness can have an impact on many different areas for the child. If the parent does feel like the child isn't getting enough sleep, then problem solving things that might help that. One of the things that might come out of that are keeping more consistent bedtime. Our final question is, why is my child stammering more or less at the moment? And this can be a real concerning one for parents. So the first thing we'd be wanting to do is to reassure them that this is a common thing that we see, that the environment can have an impact on how much the child is stammering, and that this isn't something for them to be worried about. So maybe revisiting your formulation to help parents understand the different factors that might influence a child's stammer. or just trying to think of some practical things they can do too. So maybe keeping some routine in place at home if possible, and also having open conversations with children about things that are happening at the moment and things that they'll be hearing about, and any upcoming changes that are planned for them. That openness about talking about feelings and openness talking about problems seems even more important for children over these next few months. So there are a few of the things that we've been trying as a team and some of the conversations that we've been having. We would love to hear how you're getting on if you're trying Palin PCI online, which we would encourage you to do. Our email address is on there and our phone number. Equally, if you're coming across anything that you're finding difficult and you want to chat something through with a therapist, that's what our helpline is for. So our helpline number is on this page. There's a link there to the training section of our website, and that has any upcoming Palin PCI training, as well as all the other training that we do at the centre. And the last link there is a link to the Palin PCI second edition of the manual, and that's come out this year, so there's lots of updates in there, as well as a bit about Palin PCI online, so that might be a useful resource to look through. So that's everything from us. We hope that you found it useful, and best of luck with trying Palin PCI online.